Hello everyone, in today's video we are going to show you how to set up Nginx high availability with the keepalived service. So in our demo here we have two web servers running on two separate virtual machines. The first web server is running on 192.168.121 and also port 80. So if you go to this server, we're going to find it outputting hello world 1, and the other server is going to output hello world 2. So the first thing we're going to do is to configure an Nginx server. In order to do this, you need Linux distribution. You can do it with any distribution you like. I'm using Ubuntu in this example, and I'm going to name the server as Nginx1, and the IP address is going to be 192.168.131. And this Nginx server is going to receive the traffic and the requests from the users, as going to forward it to the two web servers that we have underneath it. So in order to do this, this is our Nginx configuration file. You need to first to define upstream, and this upstream you can name it anything you like. I've chosen backend as my name, and you need to define the web servers that Nginx is going to forward the traffic to. So we have server 1 with the IP address 192.168.121, and the other server in the 22. And then in the server part of the configuration, you need to define the port that Nginx is going to listen on. I have chosen port 80. And then you need to define your proxy path, and you're going to type proxy path HTTP backend, and of course backend is the name of our upstream. So we're going to copy this and head to our first Nginx server, which is Nginx1. So we're going to update our repositories. So the first thing we need to do is to enter the super user mode using sudo -i, and then update our repositories. And then after it finishes, we're going to install Nginx. And then we're going to head to the location where Nginx configuration files are stored. So we're going to cd/etc Nginx sites enabled. And we're going to create, if you list the contents folder, you might find the default file that comes with Nginx. You might remove it if you like. It's useless. And then we're going to create a new configuration folder by using the command nano. You can name the configuration folder any name you like. Let's call it load balancer. I'm going to copy the configuration here, and then we're going to restart our Nginx by systemctl restart Nginx, and then check the status of Nginx by systemctl status Nginx, and as you can see, Nginx is active and running. So if we go to the IP address of our Nginx, which is 192.168.131, we are going to find it successfully load balancing between our two web servers by going to hello world 1 and hello world 2. So the next step we need to do is we need to configure another Nginx server that's going to do the same thing as this Nginx1, and we're going to call it Nginx2. And then we need to configure high availability between these two servers by using keepalived. So what's going to happen is Nginx1 is going to be our master or active server that's going to receive all the traffic. And if this server fails or shut down or crashes for whatever reason, then our Nginx2 is going to replace it as a new active node and is going to receive the traffic and forward it to our web service. So we're going to head to our second Nginx and we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to update and upgrade. And then we're going to install Nginx. And then we're going to head to the configuration file. You see Nginx sites enabled. Sorry. Now we're going to create a new configuration file. Let's name it the same name as the first one, load balancer. We are going to copy our configurations and then restart. Now let's head to the IP address of our second Nginx server, which is 32. And as you can see, it's running successfully. Now we need to configure keep alive. The first thing we need to do is we need to install keep alive. I'm going to do this by typing the command apt. I'm going to head to our first server, apt install alive, and then apt install lib ipset 13. And then after we do this, we're going to head to etc keep alive. And we're going to create here a new configuration folder, which we're going to name keepalived.conf. And here we need to create our configuration for our keep alive instance. So the first thing we need to do is we need to define an instance. You can name this instance anything you like. I have chosen the name vi1, and we're going to define the state of the server. Is this server is going to be the active node or the passive node? In this example, we're choosing master, which means active node. And then you need to define the interface that the keep alive server is going to run on. If you don't know what your interface is, you can type IP address and search for your interface. It's right here, 192.168.131. It's running on EMP0S3. So we're going to type EMP0S3. And then the virtual router ID. This ID can be any number you like, but it needs to be consistent between the two servers. So if we type here 55, it needs to be also 55 on our second Nginx machine. Here the priority must be different between the two machines, and the higher the priority is, this means this indicates that this is the active server. So here is the priority is 150. So the other Nginx server must have a priority lesser than 150. Let's just say 100 or 149 or whatever. So by the priority number, the keep alive is going to understand which server is the master and which other servers are the passive in this configuration. So advertisement interval or advert int is the seconds, the time in seconds that the keep alive is going to wait till it sends its packets. So this packets that keep alive server sends is used to identify if our nodes are running or not. So for example, if uh, our second Nginx server doesn't receive an advert packet in the matter of 1 second, then it's going to turn itself to our master nodes. Here we define the unicast addresses. If you don't define this, then our server is going to send multicast message to all other servers in the network. But here we define specific unicast address. So we're going to specify the source IP, which is the IP address of our server, and then the unicast peer, which is the IP address of our another Nginx server, which is 192.168.132. Authentication is optional, but it's better to have authentication, and we're going to have an authentication password that is shared between our two servers. And then the last thing and the most important thing here is the virtual IP address. This is the IP address that the keepalive service is going to listen on, and you need to have this IP address ready in your network. So uh, it's going to get allocated to our keepalive service. So we're going to copy this configuration and we're going to paste it right here. And then we are going to restart the keepalive service. Now we're going to check the status of the keepalive service. And as you can see here, now our VI1 is entering the master state. Our second Nginx server. I'm going to also install and keepalive and libib set. And then after this, we're going to head and create our configuration folder. Now here, the only difference we're going to have is that instead of having master, we're going to have backup, as this is going to be our passive node, and we're going to have a lower priority, just say it's 100, and now you're going to change the source IP of the unicast 32 and unicast peer is 31, and then we're going to restart keepalive service. Now let's check the status of our keepalive. And as you can see here, it entered the backup state. So if we ping on the IP address we had set up, which is 192.168.170, it's going to return. And if we enter it from our browser, 192.168.170, it's going to give us our web service. So we have successfully configured the keepalive service with the IP address or the virtual IP address of 192.168.170. Now let's test this by shutting down the keepalive service on the first Nginx. And let's go to the other Nginx server and see what happened here. So let's say status sys keepalive. So what happened here, as you can see, it had entered the master state. So what happened is it didn't receive the advertisement packet from the master node, so it turned itself into the master node. And if we check again, you can see here that the IP is still working. And if we restarted the keepalive server on the Nginx1, you can see here that it has re-entered the backup state as the master received advert from 192.168.131. So we have successfully configured high availability on Nginx.